The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.
And we are coming to you live on the W2M Network. Pre-recorded, but live to you. As you're listening, welcome to the Kickoff. My name is Harry Broadhurst. Joining me, as per usual, my co-host, Stephen Err.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back here on the Kickoff.
And Brandon Biskabing.
Week 1 of the NFL season finally almost upon us. Let's do this.
Yes.
But before we get into Week 1 of the NFL season, we have some Week 1 of college ball to talk about as well.
Yes.
It's time to hit our first official segment here on the Kickoff. It's time for the very first edition of Studs and Duds. All right, Brandon, I'm going to let you go first here. Who was your stud for Week 1 of the football season?
My stud for Week 1 of the college football season was Taquan Marshall from Georgia Tech. Had a great game. He's a quarterback, but got 249 rushing yards. And against that Tennessee defense, ranked team, very good game for him. And they brought it down to the wire. They almost got the upset.
Yeah, the second ever game in Atlanta's new stadium down there after the Alabama-Florida State opener. That's quite the pair to open up the season down there. How about you, Stephen? Who's your stud for Week 1?
My stud for Week 1 was Oklahoma quarterback Baker Mayfield. He didn't even play the second half. He went 19 of 20. That is 95% completion percentage. 356 yards and 3 touchdowns. That was just the first half, ladies and gentlemen. He didn't play the second half. If he had played the second half, I could have easily seen him go over 500 yards passing and maybe 6 or 7 touchdowns. Amazing performance.
Okay. To be fair, they were dining on Cupcake U. We'll see what Baker Mayfield and Oklahoma have in store this weekend when they play Ohio State.
Yes,
that's why I stuck to a team that was actually playing someone good.
Speaking of a team that was playing someone good, my stud is actually going to be Josh Rosen from UCLA. 41-10 and 44-17 at one point. One of the biggest comebacks in college football history, and it all happens within the end of the third and the entirety of the fourth quarter as UCLA comes back to defeat Texas A&M. I think you may be looking at Josh Rosen as a potential Heisman Trophy winner at the end of the year, and when you look back, this is going to be his defining moment, bringing his team back from the second largest deficit in college football history.
And that's a big win for UCLA. That really, I don't know if that fully puts them in the picture for the Pac-12, but it gives them a lot of confidence going into the year.
Not to mention with UCLA as well, it allows them to enter into the W2M top 25 ratings this week as well, as they replace another team from Texas we'll talk about here in just a little bit. We promise we have a couple of things to say. All right, let's go to the opposite side of it. Brandon, who's your dud for Week 1?
Well, my dud, we were going to talk college football, but after the news that came out yesterday, I had to put this as my dud for the upcoming week. Is both Ezekiel Elliott and the New York Giants. He loses his appeal for the suspension. Still 6 games, but because of a technicality, because of the decision coming a little too late, he's still going to be able to play this week against the Giants, which definitely helps the Cowboys because the Giants are one of their tougher opponents moving forward. Definitely tougher to have him again or not have him against the Giants. Worse to not have him against the Giants than now not having him against the Redskins, who are a much weaker team. So while he is a dud for losing his suspension and still having to be out for 6 games, the Giants definitely get hurt by him still being able to play this week.
I feel like that's kind of a homer pick.
No,
Homer.
not at all.
Homer.
No.
Like last week, Harry's coughing. Homer. Oh, sorry.
Steven, how about you? Who's your dud for the week?
My dud for the week is Tom Herman of Texas. Actually, I'm going to talk. Get started early with the Texas talk. Tom Herman, big expectations going to Austin after what he did at Houston, and he gives up the most points in a coaching debut in Texas history, 51 to the second worst team, mind you, in the Big Ten in Maryland. So that's not a good look to start off the season. Maybe hopefully him and the team can get it together, but we'll get to that a little later.
Get it together, you say?
Yeah, exactly.
I feel like we may be going somewhere with that.
We might be.
Okay, my dud is a complete and total homer pick, and I'm not going to lie about it. Homer! My dud is Felipe Franks. Florida scored 17 points against the University of Michigan, TTUN as they're known in Ohio, that team up north. Felipe Franks was responsible for 3 of them. The other 2 were pick sixes by the defense. Our offense had absolutely nothing going for it the entirety of the game. Now, I will admit, running back Jordan Scarlett, wide receiver Antonio Callaway, both out of the game. His top receiver, his top rusher are both out of the game. But if you're going to make your debut at a university as prestigious as the University of Florida is as their starting quarterback, when we have Luke Del Rio and Malik Zaire on the roster as well, you need to be better than what Felipe Franks was against the University of Michigan.
That's crazy that Malik Zaire wasn't starting this game, especially considering what he did in Notre Dame.
The reason Zaire wasn't the starter for this game is because he didn't finish classes at Notre Dame until August 6th, and the game was September 1st. He had less than a month inside of the Florida system.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
Once Zaire gets more and more time underneath his belt with the Florida offense, I have no doubt, especially after Franks' performance against Michigan, that Malik Zaire will probably be our starting quarterback going forward. I want to know why Luke Del Rio didn't play, too.
Must have thought they didn't need him.
Can I also offer up a extra dud award to the kicker for Pittsburgh, who almost cost them a game against Florida Championship Subdivision Youngstown State? Bravo, buddy. Bravo.
Still the worst kicker performance ever in college football has to be in the Sugar Bowl between or no, not the Sugar Bowl. I forget what bowl it was, but it was back in 2011, either 2011 or 2012, where the kicker missed 3 times in a row between Stanford and Oklahoma State.
Now, I get that kicker's not exactly an easy position because you're standing on the sidelines until you're needed, but at the same time, it's Youngstown State, man. Come on.
Well,
and I say this as somebody who lives in Youngstown and is very familiar with the FCS runner-up Penguins. But both of the field goals he missed were inside of 40 yards. I'm just saying.
Well, since Eric's not here tonight, I do have another stud that I want to get to. I forget his name. I believe it's Kalen Newton. Cam Newton's younger brother plays quarterback for Howard University. Props to him. Props to Howard. 46-point underdogs against UNLV, and they pull off the biggest upset in college history this weekend. Props to him and props to Howard. There's my another stud.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned upsets because that takes us into so that happened, which is kind of our new segment here on the Kickoff. And one of the things that I wanted to discuss is the amount of upsets that we saw week 1 in college football. 4 different favorite teams, including 2 of them ranked, go down to defeat. We'll talk more about Texas a little bit later. You just mentioned Howard beating UNLV. What's up with Baylor and things in Waco, Texas these days? Losing to FCS Liberty.
Well, Baylor has had their problems over the last couple of years off the field, and those
situation.
What?
The Art Briles situation.
Yeah, exactly. So those off the field issues may finally be rearing their ugly head on the field. and that may have been what we saw in that game.
I'm with Brandon on that one. I believe that the whole Art Briles situation, everything just all messed up Baylor University in general. Forget the football team. The university is in a state of just demise right now, and that's affecting the football team, I feel. And that's why, even against FCS Liberty, Baylor's losing.
And it's crazy, a program on both the football and basketball side that were one of the, I won't say the top of the country, but one of the better programs in the country has had a huge fall over the past couple of years.
Well, you could make the argument that when Texas was going through their downtime, that Baylor was the second best team in the Big 12 behind Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
And obviously everything goes down with Art Briles. Briles finds himself relieved of his position there, and then it's just taking a turn for worse down in Waco. You mentioned Howard beating UNLV. Do you think that this is something we're going to see more of this year? We're going to see more of these FCS schools stepping up and pulling off shockers? As a Florida fan, I've had this happen to me before where we underestimated a Georgia Southern team that was the defending FCS runner-ups. And they came into the swamp a couple of years ago, I believe it was 2012, and handed us our backsides 26-16.
I remember that game.
While I don't think it'll become a regular occurrence or anything like that, I do think that we've seen, over the last 10, 15 years that the parity in college football is much greater than people try to make it out to be. And that's why I always say that if we saw a legitimate playoff in college football, we would see some upsets.
My big upset prediction for the week did not pan out. I had Power 5 school Boston College going down to Northern Illinois. Northern Illinois took them late into the fourth quarter, but ended up falling 23-20.
So close to get so far.
Boston College is one of those programs that, they've been, they haven't been as good as they should be, but they're still always decent, at least.
So we move on to other discussions, and so that happened with NFL cuts. The NFL has gotten rid of the dwindling slowly of the rosters, now making massive cuts going from the end of the preseason to the start of the regular season to get down to the 53-man roster. I want to ask you guys, who do you feel was the biggest surprise when it comes to cuts by the various teams? To me, I don't think there's any question for me. Chicago needs weapons, and they got rid of Victor Cruz, who I still feel has a lot to give to that program. I would have had a lot to give to that team.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that. I mean, Victor Cruz, I remember him as a Giants fan. I remember him back in the day as a Giant being dominant. And I still think, he's getting up there in age, but you definitely think that he would be someone that can give a little boost to that receiving core. But it is the Bears, so what do you expect? I think Victor Cruz will get picked up by someone at some point. Maybe not right away, but when there's, a wide receiver gets injured somewhere down the line, he will get another job.
We'll be talking about injuries next, so keep that thought in mind, Brandon. Steven, your thoughts on who you think was the biggest cut in the offseason?
Well, I want to go back to what you guys said. Victor Cruz, he still has the talent. He still can do good stuff with the team. The fact that the Bears cut him, well, that's because of the Bears. They're going to make dumb decisions like that. But I find that ridiculous. Well, that's not my biggest surprise. My biggest surprise is the Giants. And Brandon, you know what I'm talking about. They cut, what's his name, Travis Rudolph. They cut their rookie receiver out of Florida State. My friend's the Giants fan. I was up visiting him last weekend. We were both like, what? How could they cut Travis Rudolph? He had done so well in the preseason. And then they just like, okay, bye. That was it. He had been signed by the Packers to the practice squad. But the fact that the Giants got rid of him it makes sense. I know why they did, but it's just still a shock to me.
Yeah, it was definitely a shock. But like you said, there is definitely a reason why. They look at all the wide receivers that they have right now.
Right. They
didn't really need another guy taking not so much taking up passes, but they'd rather cut him and bring someone else in a position that they need more strength in rather than keeping him on the hope that he becomes a big name down the line.
I wanted to ask you guys about that as far as the Travis Rudolph thing there. Do you think that has anything to do with the fact that they still have really high expectations for Sterling Shepard in New York?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, it has to
I mean, you have Odell Beckham Jr. and Brandon Marshall as your main two wide receivers, but Sterling Shepard can definitely be a guy that can step into that slot role and put up some numbers, and I think that was the big issue, was that they didn't really have a place for him to play, so as a result, they cut him in hopes of using that spot more effectively.
Yeah, if they had if they didn't believe in Sterling Shepard, they would have kept Travis Rudolph and got rid of Sterling Shepard. Shepard would have been on the Packers practice squad.
All right, so that takes me to my next talking point, and so that happened. And this one's going to cover more of the entirety of the NFL preseason, and that is the sheer amount of knee injuries that we saw in this preseason. Guys, they've been talking about it for years. Do you think we need to see the preseason shrunken? Steven, you start this one.
I would say yes, just because of the fact that, like you said, all these knee injuries are happening, and they're happening to the big guys too. They're not happening to a bunch of practice squad guys. They're happening to the big guys. Julian Edelman for the New England Patriots, torn ACL. His season's already over. Brian Tannehill, even though I believe that was non-contact and it wasn't during preseason, but you get the point. The fact that there's people like Julian Edelman going down for the year, the Bears lost a good receiver. I remember his name right now. He tore his ACL against Tennessee. He's out for the season. The preseason is, like, I get you want to see what guys can do against other defenses, but all you really need is 1 or 2 games. You don't need 4 games to prove a point. I think that's way too much. They definitely need to cut it down to at least 2. I want to see a 2-game preseason and then a 18-game regular season. Or 20-game, whatever.
Yeah, it would be 18.
Right.
I don't think that we need an 18-game regular season, but I do feel like possibly getting rid of at least 1 or 2 of the preseason games would be in everybody's best interest. Because I think you could accomplish the same thing in same team scrimmages that you do in some of these preseason games by giving the coaches a chance to scout talent. Brandon, your thoughts on the whole knee injury epidemic that plagued the NFL this preseason?
While I agree with what you're saying, Harry, about, you can get it to an extent in scrimmages and whatnot, the thing is that you don't get the same sort of... You're not going to be able to prepare a rookie or a new guy in your system for the pressures of not only just playing against another team and being unfamiliar with the defense or the offense or whatever, but also the crowd and all of that. You just can't prepare for a game situation like that. I mean, while it's a bad thing and it's a risk of football, that it is such a big contact sport, so injuries happen. You do need at least a few preseason games, not only to get your rookies ready and get your rookies situated to the NFL style and to all the things that change between college and the NFL, but also your new signees, your free agent signees, your trades, the guys that need to readjust to your system. And like I said, I don't think you can get that in just practice. So while ideally you'd like to see them, ideally for injuries, you'd want them to cut back for the overall play. And plus, not to mention, think about it, and I don't know if they've done a study yet on this or not, because it's been a couple of years since they've done this, but ever since the two-a-days went away and guys are getting less reps and aren't working out their bodies as much, I feel like injuries are going up as a result of that. You need those reps. You need to get your body ready for the grind of the season in order to avoid injuries. And if you did cut back the preseason games, I think you would see more injuries then happening in the beginning of the regular season, which would make things even worse because you're losing those guys in a game that matters and you have to adjust on the fly very quickly. So maybe cut one game, maybe only do 3. I'm not even going into the fact that would never, like, they would never reduce games just because of the money situation. They want to make as much money as possible. But, even when it comes to the players, I think you need those games in order to make sure that players are ready for the season, both physically and mentally.
That was something that I was actually going to touch on as well, Brandon, that you just mentioned there. I think the reason that we're not going away from 4 preseason games is because that's one less home game that each team gets to be able to sell to their season ticket package, or to have the ability to sell to fans on a single game individual basis in order to come and see their team play.
Exactly.
All right, those were the 3 big things that I wanted to discuss with So That Happened. Do you guys have any news of your own that you'd like to bring up here?
I have 2. The first one is not big news, but it's kind of like interesting. Mike Glennon will be the Bears starting quarterback week 1 against the Atlanta Falcons. Either way, like, I was never a fan of Mitchell Trubisky. I'm still not, because I feel like he was overhyped, just like Sam Darnold. And Mike Glennon, last time he was a starting quarterback, he won 2 games for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers before they draft James Winston. So either way, I don't know what you guys feel about this. I feel like it's interesting that they didn't start Trubisky because we don't know what he could do in the NFL. We know he'd do it in North Carolina, and that was pretty good, but I don't feel he'll do it in the NFL. But we don't know. Mike Glennon, we know what he's done, and it's nothing. He's done nothing. The fact that they're starting him is a little interesting. Just a little bit.
I think what they're doing there is that they're trying to phase in their rookie quarterback, which most teams should start doing. They understand that this is more of a rebuilding year, so they're taking their time with their rookie instead of just throwing him right into the fire right away.
I'm going to have a little bit more to say about this whole situation a little bit later, so just stay tuned to Are You Serious?
And the second thing I had was Dolphins-Bucks will move to Week 11, November 19th at Hard Rock Stadium. This means that these 2 teams are going to play 16 consecutive games. That is just absolutely unfair for both teams. That is 16 consecutive weeks away from family, 16 consecutive weeks of putting your body out there like that. That just is the most ridiculous thing I've heard. I can't believe it. Like that, they should just move the game instead of postponing it to both teams have bye week.
Well, I think they waited too long. I think they waited too long to make the decision as to where the game was going to go, and by the time that they finally made the decision, it was too late, and they had to go ahead and end up putting the game into Week 11 where both teams had the bye.
Well, I think that's part. I think part of it was that they took too long to decide on it. I mean, it didn't help that the track. I mean, they were pretty sure that it was going to hit Florida, but they weren't 100% sure when. So the tracking didn't exactly help their case. But like we were talking about with the preseason games, I think the bigger issue here is the fact that Miami does not want to lose a home game.
I mean, theoretically, it's a home game for all Florida fans, though, because it's 2 of the NFL's 3 Florida teams going against each other.
But that's what I'm saying. It's not like it's not like a situation where they could have moved it to the other team's stadium, like they did with New Orleans back in 2005. So I don't think either team wanted to lose any chance of their fans being disappointed by having to move it out of state and to a completely neutral and completely foreign area to them.
This is really tough for Miami. This is more tough for Miami than Tampa Bay, because Miami, not only do they have to play 16 consecutive games, they play the Saints in London. They have to travel to London, travel back. And they have, according to NFL power rankings and all that, they have the 6th toughest schedule in the league. It's just unfair for Miami more than it's Tampa. But still unfair for both sides.
unfortunately, it's one of those situations that can't be really worked around because they took so long to make the decision.
Yeah. But I mean, where would they? Let's play devil's advocate. If they had decided earlier on, where would they move it?
From what I saw, it was either the two main spots would have been Pittsburgh or Philadelphia.
Because that makes sense. Let's move a game that was supposed to be in Florida all the way up to Pennsylvania.
Well, really? Exactly. That's what I'm talking about. I mean, the only place that's even remotely close, well, not really remotely, but I mean the best place to do it. But I guess this would have taken away from the regular season opening for it would have been to move it to Atlanta.
Yeah, that's the thought that I would have had as well, as going to the Falcons' new stadium, but at the same time they don't want to give away the first game in that stadium not being the Falcons game.
Exactly, and I think that was the problem. I think if it were any other year, it would have been moved to either if it was the Georgia Dome last year and previously, or this new stadium if it were like next year or something.
All right, so are we ready to move on into our next topic, guys?
Yep.
Let's get to it.
All right, it's time for our official debate segment here on the Kickoff. We call it Buy or Sell. And there was a very big news story to break out of college football this past Saturday night, as Alabama once again reasserted their dominance over the entirety of college football, very easily handling a supposedly very good Florida State team 24-7. This question does not pertain to Alabama, though, because by the looks of things, Alabama is going to be what Alabama usually is. This question pertains to Florida State. Gentlemen, buy or sell? Brandon, you will go first here. Florida State's chances of even sniffing a New Year's Six Bowl went up in flames as soon as DeAndre Francis went down injured in the fourth quarter.
It's way too early to definitively say yes, but I am going to say it is hanging on by a shoestring. I mean, look at how some of the other teams in the ACC did this week. Clemson had a great win. Miami did well against their opponent. They're going to have an uphill battle. They would have had an uphill battle already. I mean, we were talking about it last week, how the ACC is going to be very competitive up top. And that blow is just going to hurt them even more. And they're really going to need to do a lot of work and make sure that they know where they're going from here if they have any chance of having any good luck this year.
All right, allow me to correct myself before you speak here, Stephen. DeAndre Francois. I mispronounced the last name for the Florida State quarterback that unfortunately went down with a patella injury in the fourth quarter of the game against Alabama. Buy or sell? This is the end of Florida State's chances at a New Year's Six, Stephen.
Buy. Miami is winning the ACC, and it just got a little bit easier now that DeAndre Francois is out for the season with that torn patellar tendon. First of all, they weren't the third best team in the season. They were not the third best team to begin with. I don't know why they were ranked third. That's pretty high for a team such as Florida State. But I think Harry brought this up last week. Florida State plays a much tougher schedule than Miami, and that also, along with DeAndre Francois being out for the year, if Francois was still healthy, I would say Florida State just has to beat them in Tallahassee, and that would be a big step forward. But now I can see Miami pulling off the upset in Tallahassee this year, and I am buying that Florida State does not make a New Year's Six.
I'm going to say that Florida State finds themselves on the outside looking in of the New Year's Six. I'm going to say buy as well. I just don't think that they have the manpower in order to be able to pull that off. I don't feel like – I know their backup quarterback is somebody that's been with the team for, I believe, a year and a half now. But at the same time, it's somebody who has not had any reps. James something, I believe. I didn't catch his last name. But he's not somebody who's ever actually had any game experience with Florida State. And as we were talking about last week when we did our college football conference previews, the ACC may be one of the most difficult conferences to win this year.
Yeah, when you've got two, I'd say even three top contending teams out beyond Florida State, it's going to be a very tough battle, and Florida State, they just could not afford any sort of problems, and that's exactly what happened with Francois going down.
All right, so my plan for buy and sell for the season is going to be to ask one question that is specifically college-related, which we just had, to ask one question that is specifically NFL-related, which we will save for the last question here, and one question that pertains to both. That will be our second question here. Stephen, you will start for us here. Buy or sell, you look forward to week 1 of college football just as much as you do the NFL.
I have to buy that. No, I have to sell that because in week 1 of college football, most teams play FCS teams and they win by 66 points. In the NFL, you get an AFC Championship preview or Patriots Chiefs. I'm not saying the Chiefs can make the AFC title. They're not. It's going to be Patriots Steelers, but we'll get to that later. Yeah, NFL has much more exciting games to kick off the season. The college football season, it's, you play Alabama against Southern Alabama. That's not exciting. It's not what people want to see to kick off a season. It's not what we want to see. I'm selling that. And being a bigger NFL guy since last week, I'm a bigger NFL guy than I am a college football guy. NFL over college football any day.
Yeah, I'm selling that as well. I mean, like you said, with the exception of some games, obviously, like the Alabama-Florida State game, for the most part, teams are playing either mid-major schools or FCS schools, so those games don't have nearly as much impact as they do as bigger games do, obviously. Whereas the NFL, you have Super Bowl rematches to kick off the season and stuff like that. So you have, and there's much more parity in the NFL than there is in college football. So yeah, NFL, I mean, I'll admit to my own bias that I'm a much bigger NFL fan than I am a college fan. I'm not really a college fan at all. So, NFL hands down. Week 1, you're anticipating. College football, it kind of, unless you're really following college football or you're in college or whatnot, it kind of sneaks up on you. Whereas NFL, first week or second week of September, it's on.
I'm going to buy this just because I am such a big college football fan.
Oh, wow.
I feel like I end up watching a lot more college football during the season than I do NFL, but I think a lot of that might have to do with the fact that there's so much more college football available to be watched than there is NFL.
Exactly.
That's definitely because of that, because think about it, you're only getting at most 7 or 8 games in a week that you can watch on TV in the NFL, whereas you're getting 5-6 games at once on TV in any given area for college.
Yeah, that's the one. If I had to pick college football or NFL, it'd be because of one thing only. Here's much more college football played. I mean, you got ESPN has a game, ABC has a game, Fox has a game, NBC has a game, ESPN2, ESPN News, ESPN they all have games. When it's the NFL,
not to mention all the local channels.
Exactly. Local channels too. Fox has one NFL game. CBS has one NFL game. That's it. NFL Network doesn't show a game on Sundays. And NBC's game's not till 8:30 at night. So it's 3 games, possibly 4, depending on what week it is for the NFL.
It would be 4 on any given Sunday because you get 1 on Fox, 1 on CBS, and then a late game.
That's 3.
No, Sunday night football game.
Yeah.
He's referring to they're usually 1 game at 1 o'clock and 2 at 4, or 1 game or 2 games at 1 o'clock.
Sometimes CBS has a. That's what I'm saying. Sometimes, not all the time, CBS has a doubleheader, and sometimes Fox has a doubleheader. But sometimes both of them just play 1 game, and you get 3 games for the whole Sunday.
Well, that's only if you're in an area that your local team is
blacked out.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always
Here I always get 3 games. Two at either 2 at 1 o'clock and I almost never get 1 at 1 o'clock and 2 at 4 o'clock. I almost always get 2 at 1 o'clock, 1 at 4, and then the night game.
Oh,
Yeah, traditional. Just real quick, traditionally the 4:15, 4:25 is considered the national broadcast game for the early time slot, but there's usually at least 4 games on television, 2 on Fox, 1 on CBS, or 2 on CBS, 1 on Fox, in addition to the NBC Sunday night game.
Yeah.
All right, well, the main point of this topic is if I were to pick one college football NFL, just because I could watch 10 games at once for the college football and had to watch 2 at once for the NFL. But other than that, NFL all the way.
All right, so that takes us into our last question for buy and sell. And originally, I had written down my last question as the roster cuts, but we decided to cover that, and so that happened. So I'm going to mix it up slightly here. And my last question for this is going to be this. Buy or sell, the Super Bowl champion should start on the Thursday night to open the season.
Oh, buy, absolutely. Because, I mean, you would think that team, that's the team that everyone's looking at to start out the season, so they're the ones that should start.
Steven?
Yeah, I'm buying that. I mean, and not only that, you have to, as Super Bowl champions, you should open at home. It's only happened twice that the defending champion opened on the road. The Bucs in 2002 and the Ravens in 2013 opened on the road. But yes, definitely the defending champs should open the season at home, mind you. Their first chance at celebrating their title with their fans. It's like it makes so much sense to do that.
Yeah. I'm going to have a bold assessment of this one. I'm going to sell this and say that they should open on Monday Night Football.
No.
Give ESPN the marquee game for Monday Night Football with having the defending Super Bowl champions, because ESPN has a doubleheader and they're fighting against primetime airings throughout the season as well, because sometimes the networks end up bringing their shows back earlier than anticipated, and it ends up putting new broadcasts on network television against ESPN's Monday Night Football games. I feel like having the defending Super Bowl champions opening on Monday Night Football, in addition to adding more prestige to the doubleheader, would give more people reason to want to watch said doubleheader as well.
They won't do that because you have less of a chance of watching it on ESPN than you do on the networks.
Yeah.
For that reason. As soon as they decided to put Monday Night Football on ESPN instead of ABC, that's why ESPN started getting the raw deal with a bunch of things.
That is our executive producer for the evening, Sean Garmer.
Yeah, so I just wanted to point that out, that I like your idea, Harry, but it's not happening because there's a reason why ESPN only gets one wild card game. There's a reason why, they let them have that Monday Night Football doubleheader and all that stuff, but that's once a week, and they won't have them be the debut because they're going to give NBC that credit because Sunday Night Football is the flagship thing for the NFL, really.
Right. Or
they'll give it to whoever has the Super Bowl or something like that year, but it will never be ESPN because that's part of the deal as well for moving to ESPN is that ESPN never gets a Super Bowl anymore.
Well, now that's something that I find very curious. Do you think that the opening Thursday night game is something that should rotate between networks?
I mean, they could do that, but I think that those networks will gladly sacrifice one Thursday night game for having the Super Bowl rotate. So they'll gladly let NBC have an extra game that week to allow it to be where CBS or Fox can also have the Super Bowl or whatever. I mean, should it rotate between networks? Yeah, but does it really matter? I mean, the only thing you're getting different is different announcers and being on a different station.
All right, Sean, thanks for joining the conversation, sir.
No problem.
All right. Guys, it's time to get it together. I feel like we need sound bites for our segments. I wonder if we can talk to Mr. Producer Man about making that happen possibly for the next broadcast. I'll message you once we get off the air, Sean. All right, moving on. back to the segment at hand here. Steve, I'm going to let you take the floor with this since you kind of teased it earlier.
Yeah, my big get it together here is the Carolina Panthers. Now, they fell off the rocker last year. I don't know what happened. Cam Newton got injured. He just had a really bad off year. I don't feel like there was an excuse for it. He had Devin Funchess. He had Kelvin Benjamin. And this year he has a great running game with Christian McCaffrey leading the way. And that defense is pretty – how can I forget tight end Greg Olsen, one of the top tight ends in the league, plus a good defense led by Thomas Davis Jr.
I have him in –
for Carolina.
I was just going to say
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I have Greg Olsen in 2 of my fantasy football leagues. I'm hoping he does big things.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no excuse for Carolina not to do well this year. If they don't win 9 games, it's a disappointing season for Carolina.
Well, we talked about how difficult that NFC South could be this year as well, though, because we were all saying between Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans, and Tampa Bay, there are 3 or 4. All 3 or 4 of those teams could end up within that 8 to 10 win ratio, depending on what breaks go what ways for each of those teams. Can Drew Brees continue to define the laws of time, much the same way that Tom Brady has up in New England? Can Atlanta defy the Super Bowl curse? Can Carolina get their stuff together and not win 6 games like they've done the last 2 seasons? Can Tampa Bay prove that last year wasn't a fluke?
Yeah, I think the NFC South definitely has the most questions this year.
I don't think the NFC South is the best division in football. I think the best division in football is the AFC West. Because as sketchy as San Diego could be, the other 3 teams, in my opinion, are all going to win at least 8 games.
Los Angeles, not San Diego.
They're still San Diego to me.
Yes, they will always be San Diego to me.
Brandon, how about you? Who are you telling to get it together?
We talked about it earlier, but Texas. I mean, Maryland? Seriously? Maryland? How do you lose to Maryland? The team with the funky helmets.
Their mascot is a turtle.
Yes, exactly. You basically lost to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Not only that, but they lost to the second worst team in the Big Ten in front of Rutgers. I mean, that's not good. That's not good.
Well, I would probably put Maryland ahead of Illinois, but third worst.
Yeah, he said the second worst behind Rutgers.
I would put Maryland ahead of Illinois, so third worst.
Oh, okay.
Maybe Purdue as well, because Purdue...
Yeah, I thought of Purdue, but then I realized Maryland finishes like 2 conference wins every year, so...
I'm going to tell Texas A&M to get it together. How do you blow a 44-10 lead? In what universe does that happen? I talked about it earlier. It is the second biggest comeback in college football history. The only team to come back from a larger deficit was Michigan State against Northwestern in 2008, I believe I saw when I Google searched this.
2006.
They were down Buffalo-Houston style to Northwestern, 38-3, and came back to defeat them 41-38.
It did.
How?
Crazy things happen in college football. I mean, you should expect these type of things, like crazy upsets, like Appalachian State over Michigan in 2007. Nobody saw that coming.
The simple answer is the simplest thing ever. It's Texas A&M. Besides Johnny Manziel, who was a bust in the NFL, Texas A&M has done absolutely nothing, and I don't know why they are in the SEC.
They're in the SEC because the SEC needed teams.
Well, yeah.
Let's call it what it is. Let's call it what it is. It's the same reason Missouri's in the SEC.
Yeah.
As far as the other thing, too, is what are your guys' thoughts on the fact that at least one member of the Board of Regents at Texas A&M is already calling for Kevin Sumlin's job?
I mean, that just shows how big of a disaster that was. I mean, when you lose in the second biggest comeback in history, yeah, that's what you're going to get. I mean, yeah, he can certainly turn it around. I don't know who they play next, but if they start turning it around, then maybe those calls start diminishing a little bit. But yeah, they play against Nichols and then Louisiana Lafayette before they face Arkansas. So if they can get those 2 wins easily, followed by a win against Arkansas, then maybe Kevin Sumlin doesn't have his head on the chopping block anymore.
Yeah, I don't think he should have his head on the chopping block. It was one game where they dominated for 3 quarters, just about all 3 quarters, first 3 quarters of the game. I don't think he should be calling for his job. Like Brandon just said, they play a bunch of nobodies in the next couple of weeks. And then they play some Arkansas team who their best quarterback the last couple of years has been Brandon Allen. And he's done nothing in the NFL. So I don't think Texas A&M has anything to worry about except for maybe some other teams in the SEC that are not Arkansas.
I feel like our executive producer is about to yell at you as an Arkansas fan.
I forgot Sean's an Arkansas fan.
I'm half waiting. I'm half waiting for Sean to chime in, like, Arkansas, how dare you belittle the good name of Arkansas? Like, I'm waiting for it to happen because I feel like it's going to happen at any second now. But all right,
he just said Brandon Allen is a rookie. What is he expecting?
Yeah, he's a rookie. So take that from the Arkansas fan.
All right. I thought he had been in the NFL for a couple of years, but I guess not. Anyway.
Steven.
What's up, Harry?
All aboard the Lane train.
Yes. So if this is my thing. This is going to be my thing for the remainder of the year. If you listen to the first episode of the Kickoff last week, in which I said people should look out for Florida Atlantic University because their head coach was Lane Kiffin, who did well at USC, who coached Alabama to a national title, well, on the offense at least.
Well, got them to the title game. He didn't actually coach the title game, but that's
Wasn't he with them 2016 when they beat Clemson?
Left the team before the game.
Oh, wow. Anyway, Lane Kiffin's a good coach. I'm still sticking with FAU, even though they lost 35-13 or something. They got blown up by Navy. That's the point.
They lost 42-19 to Navy.
Yeah, they got blown up by Navy. But hey, if you just look right for Florida Atlantic, and this week they have the bigger, tougher opponent. They traveled to Madison to play Wisconsin, and I'm here to tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if Florida Atlantic pulls off the upset. If it weren't for a 100-yard pick six by Wisconsin's defense, that would have been a close game against the team they played, which I believe was an FCS team. So I mean, Wisconsin was a 100-yard pick six away from struggling against an FCS team. Plus, Florida Atlantic has played different teams well over the past couple of years, such as Florida. I remember they went to the Swamp a couple of years ago, and they were very close to winning. Or they might have won. I don't remember that. But
I can 100%
watch out.
I can 100% assure you that they have never won in the Swamp.
They came close. I remember that game. They came very close to winning in the Swamp the last time they visited.
I'm checking my book to get results for that because I genuinely think the last time they came to the Swamp, they got blown out. Unfortunately, it wasn't within the last 5 years, so I can't give you a definitive answer. Oh, there it is. Oh, wait, you're right. They actually took Florida to overtime.
Exactly. So watch out for Florida Atlantic this week in Madison against Wisconsin, the Big Ten runner-up last year. Lane Kiffin's bringing this team to Madison, and they're looking for an upset. I wouldn't be surprised if they pull it off.
All right, so I actually wrote the bio for Wisconsin for this week's Top 25 over on W2Mnet.com.
Oh, boy.
Because I'm doing the Big Ten bios for the top 25 on a weekly basis over there. And if we get a chance, by all means, we encourage you to check out our main site here, W2Mnet.com, for all things football related. In addition, you can also check out things in the worlds of soccer, wrestling, and entertainment as well. That's www.W2Mnet.com. All right, back to what I was going to say, though. I did point out the fact that big things were expected of Wisconsin this year, and then they started out down 10-0 at the end of the first quarter to Utah State. And then that is when I think they had a fire lit under their ass and proceeded to outscore Utah State 59-0 the rest of the game. I'm telling you right now, Florida Atlantic is not sniffing within 5 touchdowns of Wisconsin.
You're so sure of that, aren't you, Harry?
55-10.
If Florida Atlantic loses by less than 21 points, Harry owes me a steak dinner. I had to deal with Eric during our Real Football League podcast show. I would owe him a steak dinner if a team had gone winless the rest of the way. If Florida Atlantic loses by less than 21 points, Harry owes me a steak dinner. Book it.
Fine, but if Florida Atlantic loses by at least 4 scores, you have to put up an I Heart Lane Kiffin profile picture.
It's on like ping pong.
All right, guys. So his love of Florida Atlantic aside, I think that takes us into our final segment of the night. I have a quick question for you. Are you serious?
Let me get my best Dick Vitale impression on. Are you serious?
Unbelievable!
It's awesome, baby. Okay,
you can
now
tell
that
I'm a huge college basketball fan.
and we're going to get sued by ESPN, so let's go ahead and get into our predictions. Trademark pending, ESPN Corporation. All right, I'm going to go first here because I actually kind of teased this one earlier. My NFL upset. Chicago beats Atlanta to start the season. The curse of the Super Bowl continues with the NFC, the runner-up. The Falcons go to Soldier Field this year to start the year, and Mike Glennon gives them a much better chance of defeating Atlanta than Mitch Trubisky does at this point in Mitch's career. I personally think Mitch was a reach at the second overall pick to begin with myself. He has done nothing to prove me wrong because everything that he's done has been against 2s and 3s. Granted, while playing with 2s and 3s himself. But Mike Glennon actually did have a solid campaign with Tampa Bay, despite the fact that he had nothing around him when he was down there. Therefore, I think Chicago pulls off the upset in Soldier Field against the Atlanta Falcons.
Yeah, I don't see that happening at all. I do not see that.
I do not see that happening at all.
A solid performance at Tampa Bay. They won 2 games the year in 2014 under Mike Glennon. No. Atlanta's not going to make the playoffs. I don't see that happening. But listen to the Bears, who got rid of Victor Cruz and have Ruben Randall, who was once the 3rd best receiver on the bad Giants team. And I'll ask you, Harry, are you serious? The Bears? No, that's going a little bit too far in my book.
All right, then how about you, Steven? Why don't you go next here? Who's your NFL upset of the week?
All right, well, I looked at the schedule and I was like, wow, there are so much good games. I can't even say who's going to upset who. And I'm not going homer here because the Cowboys do beat the Giants. It's not an upset. It's just a win. My upset comes on Monday Night Football. The Vikings defense will shut down AP in his return to Minnesota. Vikings upset the Saints.
I don't necessarily think that's an upset.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I have that going I was going to pick that as my upset the opposite way. That New Orleans goes into Minnesota and beats Minnesota.
The fact that it matters that a quarterback in Sam Bradford is going against a future Hall of Famer Drew Brees. That's the type of upset I was looking at.
That's true.
Okay, but let's look at the fact that New Orleans won like 5 games last year.
7.
6?
Oh, God. The fact of the matter is, Adrian Peterson talking all this trash. Oh, I'm going to rip up that Vikings defense. He's going to rush for less than 100 yards, though. They're not going to let him get past them.
Okay, but you're forgetting about the other running back in New Orleans named Mark Ingram.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't all on AP's shoulders when they go up to Minnesota, though. They have a 2-headed monster in Mark Ingram and Adrian Peterson in their backfield, and you could make the argument that Drew Brees is the 3rd best quarterback in the NFL.
Yeah, this is the first time in Adrian Peterson's career, well, I think maybe 1 or 2 years he had a secondary guy in Minnesota, but this is the first year in his career that he's fully having a secondary guy to take the power load off of him.
We're not talking about Mark Ingram. We're talking about the fact that Adrian Peterson was talking all this trash. about going up against his former team and how he was going to run all over them, but he's not going to at all.
I don't think he'll run all over him, but I think he will have a pretty solid game.
I'm sorry. I'm with Brandon on this one. I'm picking New Orleans. All right, let's move to college, shall we?
Let's.
Yes.
All right, Brandon, you go first here. Who's your college upset for this week?
Oh, this is a tough one because there aren't really any huge games that are either, huge upset potentials or really gimme upsets. I think the closest I'm gonna get is I don't even think this is gonna be a win per se, but I think Notre Dame at least gives Georgia a run for their money.
Well, I actually had Notre Dame ranked in my most recent top 25, so frankly, it wouldn't surprise me at all if the Fighting Irish knock off the Bulldogs. And frankly, as a Florida fan, there's nothing I enjoy more than seeing Georgia lose.
But like I said last week, I'm thinking Georgia has a good season, so that kind of I still think Georgia will be able to win that game, but I think it'll be close.
Yeah, you said that Georgia didn't have a good season. Then they just lost starting quarterback Jacob Eason. He's going to be out for a while. He suffered an injury against App State, so I wouldn't necessarily see.
So yeah, actually, you know what?
Winning an upset over Georgia because it's not really an upset because they're starting a freshman quarterback named Jason Frum.
But going based off of rankings alone and standings,
sure.
it is technically an upset. So I'll go with that as my upset pick.
I hear you. I hear you there.
Well,
there aren't really any other upsets that I can see.
My upset is ratings based as well, but I'm going to go last here because I want to get your guys' thoughts on mine last. Steven, you're up.
Yeah, Harry and I were actually talking before we all got together about how his upset wasn't much of an upset. Neither's mine. Stanford could definitely beat USC, no doubt. Sam Darnold struggled against Western Michigan. Ooh, big bad Western Michigan.
Yeah, that was
Stanford's going into Los Angeles and pulling off an upset of number 4 USC.
That was another one I was looking at, but I think USC will still pull that one out.
5 words to describe my upset pick. You guys ready?
Yep.
Go for it.
Defending national champions go down.
What?
Auburn beats Clemson.
Oh. I'm sorry. I'm thinking Alabama. I'm thinking you're thinking Fresno State over Alabama. I'm thinking Alabama won last year. I'm so
no. Well, to be fair, Alabama is always national champion, so that's not surprising that you would think that. But yeah, once he said that, I was like, that was another one that I was also looking at. But I think Clemson would have enough. Also, it is at Clemson,
which I think increases the shock value.
That is true. But I still think Clemson will pull that one out. But I could definitely see Auburn going in there at the same time and beating them.
Yeah, so can I.
Not only does Auburn go into Clemson and win, but we see 2 very highly ranked teams out of the SEC West when the Iron Bowl comes to us a little bit later on in the calendar year between Alabama and Auburn.
Do you think Auburn has it in them to make a run and be a contender?
I think it's going to come down to the Iron Bowl to determine the SEC West.
It could possibly. Auburn always has. They're always pulling up big upsets, pulling off against LSU. Then the Iron Bowl in 2013 when the kick six by Chris Smith. And Clemson's going to have a big ego. They just beat Kent State with the new quarterback. They're like, oh, we're going to beat everybody this year. We're going undefeated. That's going to hurt them against Auburn. So I won't be surprised if Auburn does go into Clemson, South Carolina, and pull out this win.
I will give Clemson credit. The Bryant era in Clemson started very, very well. But at the same time, I do believe that what Steven just said is accurate. I feel like there's going to be too much of a sense of entitlement in Clemson. They're going to take Auburn lightly, and they're going to pay for it. Auburn 24, Clemson 20. All right, let's talk about the big game on the college football schedule here real quick since we have a little bit of time left in our program here. Let's talk about Ohio State, Oklahoma. Gentlemen, I want to pick and I want a final score.
I want Brandon to go first. I have to talk about this one a lot. I like this game a lot. I got a lot to say about it. So, Brandon, you go first.
I am going with Ohio State in this one. In terms of score, I'll say 24-21.
All right, so before I get my final score and all that other good stuff, I just want to say this is a must-win for Oklahoma. This is the biggest game of their season, and it's only week 2.
Yes,
and if they do not win in Columbus, that's it. Game over. Oklahoma State's winning the Big 12. So they must, and I mean they must prepare their lives for this game in Columbus. But unfortunately, Ohio State's going to win, and I don't think it's going to be – I think it's going to be close in the first half. In the second half, though, that defense is going to pick apart Baker Mayfield, and that's going to be the end of it.
You got a final score for me?
45-21. Ohio State does it again.
I don't think it's quite that bad, but I do think Ohio State wins. And to answer your question, I think that one of the Big 12 teams has to pull out a major non-conference victory to give the Big 12 a shot at getting into the college football playoff. Either, excuse me, Texas has to step up and pick up a big win in one of their nationally broadcast games. I mean, losing to Maryland pretty much puts a nail in their college football playoff.
No, they're done. There's no way that. There's no way.
I don't think Oklahoma State has a marquee enough game to get into the college football playoff unless they go undefeated.
I think that's the only way the Big 12 team will get into the college football playoff is if a team goes undefeated and they are one of at most 2 teams that go undefeated.
In my opinion, it all comes crashing down for Oklahoma here. Baker Mayfield came back to try to win a national championship and try to win a Heisman before his career was over. He'll get neither after his performance here. Ohio State 31, Oklahoma 17.
Wow, so I have the closest.
Yep. That's it. I don't know if you guys are doing the W2M, the football to the max pick'em pools on ESPN. That's the exact.
I'm still doing it.
I'm not.
That's the exact score that I wrote in for the pick'em pool as well of Ohio State 31-17.
But that's going to be a good game, though. Like, we're going to be watching that game. It's going to be very exciting to start. But by the second half, you're going to want to watch something else.
Well, I don't know about you guys, but assuming it happens, I'll be watching Florida and Northern Colorado.
Oh,
Do.
You would.
Go Gators. Homer. Sorry.
Yeah, the Homer picks. All the Homer picks. You with the Gators and Brandon with the Giants.
Now, I won't be completely Homer the whole season.
No, we'll see about that. We got a long way to go here.
I'm looking forward to you two bickering next week on the show once we find out who actually wins that Dallas Giants
game. I'm looking forward to that game. I got my Zeke jersey ready. I'm ready to go for this game.
Do we have anything else to add before we get out of here, gentlemen?
Just hoping for a good season of NFL and looking forward to the beginning of the season.
I'm looking forward to Patriots Chiefs, but I want to go back to what we said in the beginning of the show about how you had mentioned Josh Rosen being a Heisman guy. If he plays like he did against Texas A&M, he's not winning the Heisman because that was 3 quarters of crap and 1 quarter of 4 touchdown, like 3-4 touchdown passes. He needs to play that Josh Rosen if he wants to see himself in the talks for Heisman Trophy winner, not the way he did in the first 3 quarters.
Okay, but at the same time, Rosen will have a lot of opportunities against very good teams in the Pac-12 to make his name later on in the season. This was just one game against a. This was just one game against a outside of the conference Power 5 opponent where he was able to orchestrate, as I said, the second biggest comeback in college football history.
Well, hopefully he can do well against the other Pac-12 teams and do well the rest of the way. He will see himself in contention for the Heisman Trophy.
I mean, you got to think there's a Heisman Trophy hopeful right across the city from him in USC Sam Darnold as well.
Well, that game between those two is going to be a big determinant.
I mark my calendar for that. November 18th, they face off in the Coliseum. Can't wait.
All right, gentlemen. We know one of your teams is going to open with a loss. I think my team actually has a strong chance to open with a win this year. I think Buffalo beats the Jets.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Jets are going on 16.
Yeah, I was going to say, in fairness, it's the Jets. It's really not really a victory.
Well, that was one that I was trying to think, like, would that be even considered an like, I was going to pick that as my upset, but I was like, is that really
That's
even
not an upset at all.
upset?
No way.
It would be an upset if the Jets won. I mean, I'd be very...
Yeah, but I really don't see them winning.
I wasn't going to pick the Jets, though. I was going to pick the Bills.
Yeah, the Bills winning is not an upset at all.
No. Oh, the Jets.
I genuinely feel like 8-8 would be a strong season for Buffalo this year, and we get our first chance to see what we're going to do this Sunday. Gentlemen, it's going to be fun.
I can't wait.
And frankly, it's going to be even more fun now that we have this show in order to trash talk each other throughout the season as well.
Oh, get ready for the trash talking next week.
For Brandon Biskeving, for Stephen I'm Harry Broadhurst. You have been listening to the Kickoff here on the W2M Network. Lane Train, we out.
The following podcast is a W2M Network original production. Visit W2Mnet.com for all of our other great podcasts, plus news, reviews, articles, and opinions from the worlds of wrestling, video games, football, and entertainment.